Why scripted roleplays? Well, if I think about it, and I kind of have for a while now, since, like, it's kind of a thing I do, but the reason for watching a scripted roleplay, I think, is quite simple, because it is the same thing as watching a play, in all honesty. If you don't know what original unscripted roleplays were, they were videos where people were pretending to be or playing as their character. They would talk as their character, they'd do things and interact as their character in their world. And those were interesting because you kind of got to see someone act for a really long time, but you still kind of see their original personality shine through. They still make jokes, they still kind of have this meta feeling about it. It'd be someone writing and acting as one character and kind of bringing the world new meaning and new life through doing that. And that was interesting to see. But scripted roleplays are very different. They're not even in the same ballpark as normal roleplays. They are, in all means, something that should be named different than what they are. But it's kind of already too late for that. People that didn't exactly know what the word roleplay meant started naming things roleplays instead of coming up with a new term for them, and it caught on, and eventually everyone who's posting theater productions in games are now calling them roleplays when they really aren't. They are something completely of their own rather than the word that they've choose to morph into it. I think that's a very interesting situation to be in, but I also think that we should eventually think of a different word for it. I don't know if it's going to take a revolution or anything, but it's something I would like to change, but I don't know if I have the capability to change it. But I think just by talking about it and just like realizing where roleplay came from and what our modern consensus of what roleplay is not quite the same thing. And just having people say, I like this scripted series, but not necessarily roleplay. Roleplays aren't exactly for, in our sense of roleplays, they aren't exactly for bringing a world to life or playing as one character and bringing that character to life. They're more for telling a broader story using means that they understand, the creator understands. I use Minecraft as my scripted roleplay source because of the fact I've got thousands of hours in Minecraft. It's my go-to game, it's my favorite game, and I know far more about it. I know I can do tons of mod stuff and get the story out there and make sets and things. And sure, you have that ability in things like Gary's mod, but not anywhere near the same freedom. And I'm sure there are some games that can provide that same freedom as Minecraft, but I'm not well versed in them. I don't even know if they exist or not. So obviously I'm not the best person for them. But as far as scripted roleplays go, they're kind of something that I've grown to have a fondness of because of the fact they are scripted stories, and that's what they are. They are essentially 100% a play. You're using the assets available to you, whether it be through editing the game itself or other means, to tell a cohesive narrative, and you might have some actors, you might not have actors. It depends on the resources available to you. The resources available to me are myself and a couple of people I know who don't know what a computer is, let alone what a scripted roleplay is, so the voice actors aren't exactly a thing that I can get a hold of very easily, but I do have access to things like Audacity, which I'm using to record this video right now. I'm using to edit the audio as well, and that allows me to make a much wider range of voices for the actual roleplay itself. And I don't know, I just think the whole situation is kind of, it's strange to talk about, it's strange to say what is the appeal of this thing when it is all the same appeals of something else, but also of itself. It's got all the same appeals of going live on stage, but you can edit things, you can change everything out, and it's not live, it's completely and utterly edited, it's fully made through editing. It's like putting on a television series, a very low budget, in your ability to make things television series. That is what it is. And to see someone without a lot of resources who can't necessarily pull off something spectacular, who isn't necessarily the greatest writer or actor or set builder or designer around, but still able to put together a full-length series and still get their image out there is very impressive. And I commend anyone who can do that fully. Just like learning how to add music and blend it properly is a difficult thing to do, and that's just one minor step in making an actual decent roleplay. And so there's people who put far more into their roleplays, and like have far more production value behind it, but it doesn't mean it's as good. And that's something that people also have to learn to understand when watching these series, that it's not necessarily about the production value, it's more so what the person is bringing to the table. Like, in my series, I spend 25 hours on each episode, but there's other people who will spend much less than that, but still get a better product because of the fact they are better at certain things. Like, I don't think I have any capability of really anything, so it's hard for me to do anything proper. But for other people who are good at this sort of thing and who can make well-produced series and well-produced products for people to enjoy, they're almost less fun to watch, because the whole point is being able to produce something that you can't produce by any other means, so get your image out there. And that could sound pretentious, but it's kind of what it is. It's a means to get a full-length story, a full-length production out on the interwebs, and to have it seen by a lot of people, or not seen by a lot of people, but it's still out there. You still made it. It's still a thing you've made. But it's pretty obvious why you like it. It gives you the ability to create something you would have no means to create any other ways. But at the same time, there's a lot of people who have other means of making things, who are rich, who are huge, successful YouTubers, who could easily put together an actual full-length film, if they so choose, if they so divided their resources into doing that. So why watch something like that, or why watch someone who doesn't have any capabilities? Someone like me without any capabilities to make anything entertaining in the slightest. Why watch those? Well, I'm kind of unsure, because you get into a strange middle ground zone where this isn't very quality, but it's getting better, or this is really, really high quality, but it's not getting better, because there's a certain curve. When you invest a certain amount into it, it's harder to invest more into it, unless you start breaking some of the rules that are put in place. But no one seems to break rules, because, well, when you're actual, like, successful YouTuber, you can't exactly shake things up too much, or else you suffer a possible loss of fans, which in turn is possible loss of income, which in turn is a possible loss of food and water. So I kind of can understand that, why you wouldn't put so much time and effort into a thing you have no idea if it will succeed or not, just so it is something far more what you want to actually make, rather than something that could actually be sold. And that's understandable. And it's kind of understandable to watch people who don't have the ability to really put together a roleplay of any real significance, and see kind of their evolution through, and see how exactly they work everything out, or to see what goals they strive for. That's kind of the point where I think I get most interested, to see when they don't have any idea what they're doing, when they don't have high value anything put in. It's just one or two people doing a thing and putting on voices to make a story. I think that's when the most creative things can come forward, and when the most progress can be made. And I kind of lose interest after they get better at it and kind of get stuck in their ways and don't continue changing, because the whole interesting part of the first one was working around all the things you couldn't do to come forward with a better product. That's what made it interesting. You aren't good at editing, you aren't good at acting, you aren't good at making sets, but you can come forward with something great because you figured out workarounds for it, and that's impressive. That makes it far more entertaining and far better of a product. But what happens when that stops happening? Then what? When they get used to doing that, when they get better at it, and they can actually do it, then what happens? Well, in most people's opinions, you start making something better. You start aiming higher. Instead of aiming for, oh, I just want this series to be a 6 out of 10 and be enjoyable and get this many views and whatever, you say, okay, I now want to make this the best of my ability. I want to add this aspect. I saw this in different roleplay. I want to add this into mine. This could take hours and hours of work to just begin to learn how to do it, but I want to do it. That's what most artists would probably do. But the thing is, YouTube is very, very different from most art forms in the fact that it's not got necessarily artists on it. It's got people who want to make videos, and that's about it. There are people on here looking to make a living or looking to produce art over anything else. I'm one of the people looking to produce art over anything else, and you know, there's stark differences between me and other people and their other aspects and other philosophies on what you're doing on YouTube, and for everyone it's a little bit different. You can say, I just want to make the best thing I can make. You could say, I just want to make the most popular thing I can make. Or you could say, I just want to make something I enjoy. And all those things kind of can relate in certain ways and can't relate in other ways, and sometimes worlds can cross and sometimes they can't cross. I can say I want to make the best thing I can make, and because that's what I want to see. I want to see something better than what I make. I want to see something as great and as amazing as other things. I want to see something the best of my abilities and then better than that. That's what I want to see. That's what I want to make. But it's also the artist side of me saying I want to make the best thing possible. So I can kind of understand both of those, and I can kind of understand where the other people are coming from. But I think the real interest in watching them is to see a story and to see someone overcome strict, just restrictions, if no other better word I could think of at the time. Just have them be able to overcome those restrictions and make something still worth watching, still creative and well produced, even with everything working against them. And the higher and higher they strive, and the higher and farther they go, with more and more restrictions placed on them, I think the better and better series that can be made. And I think that's kind of a problem in the roleplay community, if I can call it that, and if I even have the right to call it that, since I've made like 9-10 roleplay episodes, 13 actually now, 13 roleplay episodes, and I'm probably not anywhere near that community, but I'm a writer, and I would prefer to make more of these things, and I prefer to understand how these sort of things work. And I think the main problem facing roleplays in general is the fact that people don't take them as a piece of material that they enjoy doing, and they take it more as a piece of material that they enjoy having done. If that makes any sense. It doesn't. It doesn't make sense, and I know it doesn't make sense, and I don't really see how it can be fixed either. I don't really see how people can look at it and say, I want to make something that is good enough to be on normal television. Well, go for it. But the problem is most people aren't going to strive that high, and when they do, well, they're going to strive that high, and they're not necessarily going to make it. It's just I don't see anyone trying that hard. I'm not seeing anyone say, oh yeah, I'm doing this roleplay of this one anime series that's really old. It's not that great of a series, but the thing is, I have a feeling I could pull off this anime series better than the original. I could pull off this roleplay better than the original ever was. And that is what I want to see. I don't want to see people say, hey, I made an internet thing and it was cool. I want people to say, hey, I made this internet thing and it's equal, if not greater, than its counterpart, than what I based it on. This is good enough to stand on its own as its own product, and it's good enough to surpass the original. That is what I want to see, and I just want more people to work towards that. And I think that is where the enjoyment comes from. Seeing people strive to do something they have no right to be able to pull off, but still being able to pull it off, and still having it to be good content. I think that is the appeal of scripted roleplays more than anything else.